How do you respond when your entire world just changed? I'm serious. Think about it for a moment. Weeks ago, you weren't even thinking about social distancing or practicing isolation. Now, how do we network? How do we grow our business? How do we stay connected? Furthermore, how can we be of service during this time? Join our host, Tony Grebmeier, and today's guests as they share their best practices and insights to help you navigate the waters ahead. Welcome to Networking Remote.
Well, it's time for episode number 8 of Networking Remote 2020, a discussion of business, connections, and community. Are you ready for an epic show? I know it's Cinco de Mayo because today is that day. And if you want to participate in today's podcast and live stream, all you need to do is go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, grant a quick permission, and we'll share your name and question when you come back to the live stream. We're excited to answer your questions, share your comments, and learn a lot today about what is happening in 3 of these giants' world. From Ed O'Keefe, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Wake Up Foods, joining us from Chicago. Also, Ezra Firestone, co-founder and CEO of Zipify Apps, and Boom by Cindy Joseph. And Perry Marshall, author and online marketing consultant, also from Chicago. I'm honored to have you all on the show today. So welcome to Networking Remote 2020.
Nice to be here, and an honor to be all you guys. It's great.
Woo. Sometimes I wish I had the recordings of the show before the show. There is so much awesomeness that happens prepping for a show and then the post show. So what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle a little of the pre and a little of the post, and we're going to go on a journey today. First, you know what? We're going to go pick the order. So we'll take Perry, Ezra, and Ed. We'll go that way for the questions. But first off, just the last, 8 or 9 weeks, how has your life been affected, or what changes have you've seen for yourself personally?
So for me, my quarantine group is 10 people. I got a daughter, and 2 daughters, 4 sons, wife, and then 2 family friends, and they're all here with us. And so that's pretty interesting. I've been running a virtual company for 10 or 15 years, so the working from home thing is not new at all. But not going anywhere is very new. And then as soon as this hit, I was when I knew that this was going to be a big problem was I was running a little live event here at my house, and I got a 911 call from one of my roundtable members, like, okay, you can pull Perry's chain and talk to him really quick. And the guy's like, well, they're shutting down the schools, and I run a fitness gym, and things are looking really bad. What am I going to do? And then the next morning, the owner of the coffee shop down the street is kind of panicking because nobody's coming in. I'm like, okay, we're really in for some big stuff here. And so it's been 6 or 7 weeks or however long of nonstop kind of crisis intervention and pivoting. One of my colleagues, David Nadler, coined the term minimum viable pivot, which I think is brilliant. And I think the people who are doing well, and I don't just mean externally solving it or maneuvering. I mean people who are internally okay are people who can embrace uncertainty. Okay, and that's a really hard thing to do, and it's not something you can explain in 30 seconds. But I think it's like you have to make friends with, if anybody's gone through a bunch of really hard emotional stuff, you have to make friends with the anger, or make friends with the grief, or something. It's almost like that.
No, I the interesting part as we dump all in this, I was coming back on a plane on March 10th from Europe, and I walked back into America, and I was like, you guys are crazy, because like I didn't see it as much in Europe, even though it'd been going on there for several weeks and everybody was concerned where we were going. But I just think there's so much has changed, and I can't wait to get into our conversation today. But hey, for Ezra and Ed, and also Perry, this little Vinny dropping by the show today. It's cool to say, hey, what's up,
you're
fellas?
fully accountable. Bunch of people in my mastermind use Vinny's fully accountable accounting service. Really love him. What's up, Vinny? Yeah, I agree with everything Perry's saying. And I think that, you know, if you have any baseline fear or anxiety just about anything in life, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you are sort of at the end of the line responsible for people's salaries and the whole hustle going well and supply chain, just everything, like that sort of fear of, will I be able to produce? Is this going to work? Is going to be brought to the surface with all this sort of uncertainty and change. And the sort of the initial kind of response is to tighten up and freak out. But if you operate from that place, you're hosed. I mean, if anybody's ever done any kind of athletics, you know that you got to relax. You got to just breathe. And then you got to take action from a place that is a little more centered. And so one of the things that I have a kind of funny story where I was in New York City, March 10th. I was going to be there March 10th through 20th. And I was meeting with private equity and venture capital firms to talk about investment in one of my businesses. I was 5 days in a row, 2 weeks in a row. And at the end of the second week, the whole country is kind of starting to shut down. It's like March 13th. And we decided to, send my whole team, my management team home, do the rest of the, investor meetings virtually, and come back upstate. And we got really lucky because we were in Times Square at the epicenter of this. And you're looking out and you're seeing like, I lived in New York City for 10 years. I never once saw Times Square empty. Never once. It was like really eerie. That's when I knew. I was like, man, something is up. But anyway, for me personally, a couple things, a bunch of stuff's going on. I'm in the middle of building a house that's now stopped. I'm getting kicked out of the rental house that I live in because the woman who lives here wants to capitalize on this pandemic and sell this house because people are fleeing the city. So there's like all this chaos happening. And, I think it's a really good opportunity to use this time to cultivate habits that you want anyways. So I'm meditating more. I'm eating better than I've ever eaten. I'm moving my body more regularly. I'm spending more time having fun with my wife, which is something I do all the time anyways. I'm using this as an opportunity to cultivate habits that I want to have when I come out of this. I'm not traveling at all. And I usually travel once or twice a month for work. And that's been a cool realization of, man, I didn't realize travel is very draining, and I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. I think I'm going to go full Perry Marshall and just say, hey, you want to come to me? You want to learn my stuff? Come to me. And I think that's a better strategy. So it's kind of like, and on the business side, there's a bunch of chaos, right? I manufacture in New York. My core company that does 25 million a year in revenue, my manufacturing shut down. I only have 2 months of supply at the moment. So that kind of opens up this conversation of, wow, I don't have supply chain redundancy. That's not very smart. I better try to fix that. So there's all these kind of things happening. And I feel like I have this mantra, and I'll give Ed a chance here, which is face the inevitable with joy. This is inevitable. And now I see a lot of people running around acting like they're victimized by this, but it's like, in the context of business, you decided to create a business. You decided to be the CEO founder. You decided to start this whole thing up. And now when shit gets intense, you're going to be the victim of it. Well, you can't have it both ways. You're either doing this or you're not. And if you did this, the response is, hey, okay, here I am. I'm responsible for the world I've created for myself. And what actions can I take that are in the direction of, solving this issue? And that's like, what more can you do? So that's what I'm doing.
I love it. I'm taking notes because at the very end, we'll wrap up today with some of the things. But so far, you both kind of talked about uncertainty and also just breathing. And Jordan Waldo writes, cultivate habits you want right now. Love that, Ezra. Great advice. So what people are hearing is really how are they going to also help themselves during this time. And I love the fact that you said, you wanted this e-commerce business. You wanted to be the CEO. This is the time not to run away, but hunker down and solve problems. You just talked about, hey, supply chain, like I need an option 2. I need maybe an option 3. Like this is a great time for you to look at your business and go, okay, where are the little holes that I need to patch, or I need to create some new opportunities. I love that. And then Ed, here's my friend launching a new business during the craziest of times. So I want to talk about your new venture as well today, because there's so many exciting things happening in your world. But answer the question and then we'll keep asking.
Yeah. I mean, how do you follow those two guys? First of all, thanks again for having me on. This is awesome. Three legends. We got Tony, Perry, and Ez. I kind of forget what the question was, but I'll give a couple thoughts there. What was the question, Tony?
Basically, how are you doing during quarantine, and like some changes you've noticed?
Yeah. So a couple of things on this. One is, like me and the family are great. Like for many of you guys know, like I have 7 kids, great wife, really validating that whatever, like, you know, a lot of the groundwork that we put in before coronavirus or this shutdown, we're getting the fruits of that labor, like where we love each other, we get along, the e-learning's going well, like everything on that front. I mean, obviously, you know, we got preteens, some teens, so there's the typical stuff. So that's been really validating. I didn't realize how much I rely on my CrossFit class or just some social interaction for fitness. Because, I mean, I've slipped on that as well. Business wise, so I had to make a choice. I've been working on this startup, Wake Up Foods, which is a plant-based, gluten-free, you know, soy-free, dairy-free waffle. Well, it's a food brand. But the main focus of it, thank you, Vinny, is that we're going to disrupt the breakfast category, and we're launching and starting with waffles. And right at, you know, March 16th, I think was our pre-sales. Like we were launching, and all this stuff started happening. And really interesting, kind of like what Ez mentioned about supply chain, was like my waffles were supposed to be being produced, and I get a phone call from my supplier saying we're 4 weeks out. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't do that. We're already launching. So we had to make some really, really fast decisions. And really, when I say we, then I had to like kind of look at things and be like, well, here's the deal. I'm not putting this off. Like, I'm not putting this off 2 to 3 months. We're launching now. We'll deal with what it is. We don't have a baseline. We don't need a baseline. Talk about Perry's thing of like uncertainty. And even today, we've been running now for 6 weeks. Things are going well. And, you know, I talked to my media buyers and we're like, we don't even know what the baseline is. Like, we don't know what normal is. So we're hustling. I've never worked this hard, except when I started my, you know, a couple of my different startups. And, you know, first of all, I would say the other side of this is thanks for having me on this, because I would not have connected in a mastermind setting without being asked to be a part of it. So one of the things that I always have to like really watch my own personality is I'll go into like lone wolf mode. But these types of times require your core. Like you need a core group of people that you can rely on and ask for help and ask for support. And those are signs of strength, not weakness. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's kind of how we're at, you know, hustling, really hustling hard and enjoying the hustle, because it's worth it, you know?
No, I think, you know, Ed, you hit the nail on the head for me. It is uncertainty, but also the adjustments that we're having to make. And that's the next kind of question. Perry, I'd love your insight on this is, you know, people look to us, they call us asking for insight. They ask questions, you know, and some of it is just kind of natural advice that maybe you're given right now to people that you're speaking with about, you know, how do they navigate their business and their waters. And
some of it is just, sorry, that's me. I'm trying to share our live stream and
that's all good.
Can't share it, I don't think, because it's in a group. I tried to.
No, yeah, you can. If you go to my personal page, you can click the share button from there. That should be fine. Because really, Perry, what I'm looking for today is there is somebody sitting at home saying, you know what, you know, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. And then there's people watching who have got a thriving business and going, you know what, maybe it's just thriving for temporarily until everybody gets everything that they need. And then I'm wondering what the heck they're going to do. And then how do I plan for my future? So I would just love to know kind of just some basic things that you're sharing today with people that are, reaching out for advice from you.
Well, first of all, I think in some sense you don't plan for a future. Okay. Like you need to deal with now. Okay. And here's what's true now. Here's what any entrepreneur, any marketer, any business owner needs to remember. The baseline reality is there are more problems to solve now than there were 2 months ago. So go solve the problem. Like solve the problems in front of your face. Okay? Like I can't I can't solve the airline industry's problem, but that's not my problem right now. That may be somebody else's problem. Okay? But meanwhile, like where is a problem? So here's how I think of how I visualize this crisis. The way the world was 2 months ago, most people were roaming around a giant parking lot in front of a Walmart looking for a crack in the pavement that they could insert a seed where there's not already a weed growing in that crack, and maybe that seed could grow out of that crack because they're looking for a crack. Okay, now there's been a Richter scale 8 earthquake, and there's a 14-foot crevice, 14 feet wide and 89 feet deep, and there's more soil exposed than you know what to do with, and you can plant seeds all day long. And then there's people on one side of the crack and on the other side of the crack trying to figure out, is there any way to jump across and all that. So there's actually, if you look at the world in terms of the only time anybody buys anything is when they're in pain or like when they have a big problem. Well, now's the time when people have big problems, but they're probably not the problems that you were solving 2 months ago. So like one of my clients is in the trade show business, and they provide software and processes for processing trade show leads. Well, guess what? There ain't going to be no trade shows anytime soon, right? So that's stopped. But does he have clients? Yes. Does he have people that trust him? Yes. Does he know how to solve problems? Yes. He knows more about sales processes than 99.6% of all of his clients. So what should he do? I told him, I said, get on the phone and start calling the directors of sales and and all those guys and saying, so we're all trying to figure out this together. Tell me about your world. What's going on? Tell me about your sales targets. Tell me about your quarterly. And they'll tell you. And I said, I bet you anything, all you have to do is peel a few layers. You're going to find out, well, they weren't following all the processes that you gave them for the trade show leads that you were already getting. There's this pile of leads nobody ever followed up on. And everybody's in pain because you guys aren't. So I can help you. I said, I don't know what your new business model is going to be while you're waiting for the trade show business to come back. But I know you have clients who have problems, and I know you can solve them. And if you run into the chaos, if you embrace the uncertainty, you will find, they'll find a way to keep you around if you're helping. You need to be the break glass in case of emergency guy. That's my take.
I love that. Ezra?
This thing I didn't say before that I want to say is this is also a good opportunity to remember that the best skill that you can have in life is the ability to enjoy what you have. And here's an inspiration to derive more pleasure, satisfaction, and enjoyment out of what you have in your life now, not where you want to go. It's like, if you can't be happy here and now, you will not be happy there and then. There's no amount of stuff that will bring you fulfillment. It's like, that is a bullshit concept. The game is figure out how to enjoy your life as it is. And hey, part of enjoyment includes the desire for more, and that is righteous. But first and foremost is like Ed was saying, man, he's really enjoying he said this before the broadcast. He's really getting a whole new level of enjoyment out of his family and kids and doing new things with them and spending more time and just seeing how much is available there. And so that's a thing that I always am telling business owners when they talk to me now is like, hey, what is available in your business now for you to enjoy and also for you to go deep on? Like we went and did this whole crazy spring cleaning project, redid all our SOPs, checked all of our drives, renamed everything. And we found all these assets that we forgot about that are super valuable to us. We're creating all kinds of stuff, more top line sales videos, pre-sale articles, blog articles. We're redoing our email flows. Like we're using this as a time to create. And I think now is the time to go hog wild, to go ham don dada on advertising, because the ad markets are soft at the moment. It's a cheap time to buy visibility and to buy email leads. I can't currently sell my product, right? I've dialed down my awareness and acquisition to $1,000 a day from $20,000 a day, because I don't want to waste my inventory on new customers. I want to use it for people that I already know, that already have been riding with me to support me. So I'm still sending my emails and I'm still, cultivating and building a relationship with my community and selling the product to them. But I've just dialed down my awareness spend of bringing new customers in the door. But I've dialed up my video views, YouTube, page post amplification, and email lead generation ads, because it's a great time to build audience. So even though I'm not trying to go out and get sales, I am going out and trying to build my audience. And I think, a lot of companies came out of recessions, and the ones who marketed heavily in the recessions are the ones who did well. So I think it's a time for marketing and a time for creation and a time for enjoyment of what you have.
Powerful. I appreciate that. A lot of good nuggets in there. Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you how. You see, my wife gave me the headset because she was sick of hearing me talk. But or actually, no, she can still hear me talk. I guess she was sick of hearing you guys talk. Sorry. But she's doing e-learning. I'm disrupting the household. Oh my God. I would say, like, I'll tell you what we're doing right now. We're about to raise capital to acquire as many plant-based waffle customers that we can, because what's happened in the consumer market is that new brands who don't know digital advertising, they're completely screwed. Like they were looking for Expo West, Expo East, all these things to like put product on shelves. They don't have that, so they're all scrambling. Well, that's our unique advantage. That's number one. Number two is, hey, let's just be honest. If your business got blown up, it's not let your ego off the hook. It wasn't you. This was stuff that happened to the best of us outside of our circumstances. So Perry's advice on that was just great. There's people like if I've always said this, if someone's doing really well, I can't stand watching these types of interviews and some dudes, we are just crushing it. We're so amazing. Well, you might just be freaking lucky is really what might be happening. I mean, like sometimes being in the right market, right time, it might be earned luck. Let me just say that. But that doesn't make the person who's struggling a less of a person right now, because they're in a market where they got to pull back, or we didn't do our events this year. Like we were just slowing down our event business. Well, what if I had 4 events lined up and I'd already booked the hotels and whatever? Does that make me a worse entrepreneur? Absolutely not. Like so I would say both sides of this work, but I would say like one of the things that, just to kind of piggyback what Perry said, and what Ezra's saying is like, now it's time to if you don't really know what you want, but you know what your skill sets are, look for people who are doing really well and just ask how you can serve them. Because anybody would say, yeah, you know what? Like we need JVs right now. Like I would take JVs. If you know how to raise capital, I would probably take someone who has all the Rolodex for raising capital right now. On Ezra's point, we got to flip that script. And listen, we're all going to be okay. We're going to get out of this. And yeah, I can go off on that tangent. I mean, really, you just got to be tough, man. You got to give yourselves, I hate sounding like a motivational speaker right now, but I'm telling you, literally the internal dialogue on a daily basis has to get managed. It can't be personalized as I'm bad, I suck, I'm doing things wrong. No, this is part of, building who you are. And At 44, I'm 44 now. I thought I was going to already have it all figured out. Well, guess what? Life had different plans. So it's okay. We're good people, but we can make it happen. It doesn't take away the hard effort and work, though, just so you know.
Yeah, you got a lot of people commenting today just on all your guys' different perspectives. Kevin Thompson.
Well, Kevin Thomas is another legend. I mean, come on.
The common theme, though, and I made a phone call yesterday to a dear friend of mine, Marco. He's in Italy. And just to put some things in perspective, he's in the transportation industry. He's had 6 shuttle rides in 2 months. You want to talk about he does usually 6 by like noon. So like you talk about 0. And then down in the Amalfi Coast, I just talked to our friends this morning, and they got a chance. They're in phase 2. They got a chance to get out a little bit, but there's nobody coming to visit. I mean, so how, blessed, because they've been locked literally in Italy. They were not allowed to even go take a walk outside. So that's one of the kind of questions that I'd love to see is what a little bit of the stay-at-home order has been like for you. And are you seeing some stuff slowly open back up? Because everybody's touched a little bit differently, like up in Seattle and Washington. I mean, it's until the end of June. Los Angeles, it's still a little off. And so I just would love to get that little insight, because not everybody has the same wind blows on us all, as Jim Rohn says, but it's the set of the sail. Everybody's sail is just a little bit different right now. So Perry, I'd love a little bit of insight.
So I am in the densest city in Illinois, which I got 55,000 people and 3 or 4 square miles, and we've got 400 cases in my suburb. And so, not as bad as New York City, but definitely up there. And so like I've really seen how, you get out in the sticks and people like, what problem? I don't see any problem. And there isn't a problem there. But if you're in a high density metro area with international airports and, people crammed, there is a problem, right? And so, yeah, there's kind of this different reality for different people. And then you have this sort of red state, blue state, like whether people trust the government and whether they trust the media. So that you have this really huge spectrum. So just to say, I'm definitely in a high concentration area, and I'm a pretty healthy guy and everything. But as far as where I live and everything, I mean, we're right in the crosshairs, and so we got to be pretty careful where I'm at here in Chicago. So I'll tell you, one of my number one go-to sanity mechanism is what I call it, and my customers call it, Renaissance time. And that is the block of time in the morning that you spend not checking your email, not on social media, not texting people, praying, meditating, reading a scripture, doing something inspirational, listening to music, being with yourself. I insist, like, everyone should at least do 20 minutes. Yesterday, I did it for 3 hours because that's what I needed yesterday. And I don't, by the way, unless your business is like blowing up and like it's going crazy because you're lucky, you have time to do this. Nobody doesn't have time to do this right now. Okay. And everybody always has an excuse. And I've been teaching this for a long time. And one of my clients, I had breakfast with him and his wife a couple of years ago, and they had just had a brand new baby. In fact, they had like all these breast pumps in their hotel room, and she's, dealing with a baby and waking up in the middle of the night. And Mark says to me, he goes, if we got a baby and it's totally crazy and I'm up in the middle of the night, he goes, if I manage to squeeze in my Renaissance time in the morning, despite all this madness, my day goes well.
Yeah.
If I don't, my day goes to shit. That's what he told me. Yes, absolutely. And my, like, maybe this is metaphysical, fine, but it's like the invisible force field. The sanity goes up, the craziness goes down, everything gets more in control. And now, what do? Well, I journal, but what it really is listening. It's like you pray, you ask a question, and you listen for an answer. And like the first thing that comes, you write it down, and you don't question it, and you don't edit it. You just get it down on the piece of paper. You can figure out what to do about it later, but which you will. And you probably don't even act on it right this second unless you're sure you're supposed to. But like, you just get it down. You just get it down. I think this is the best time to exercise your listening ability. And also, I got a friend, he's got this saying, he goes, if you take a big, giant, heavy dictionary and you drop it on the floor in a room full of cats, the cats will go everywhere. Okay. And that's what a crisis like this is like. It's like, there are some people, as a result of this crisis, they are drinking more, they're eating bad food, they're not exercising, they're watching porn, they're in social media all day long, they're eating the news for breakfast, and their life is just sliding into the abyss. Okay, that's some people. You know what I've seen with a lot of people? They've never been exercising more. They've never been eating better. They've never been sleeping better. They've never been more disciplined. They're reaching out to their friends and their colleagues. They're pivoting their business. They're disciplined. They're doing their Renaissance time in the morning. And so in my book, 80/20 Sales and Marketing, I call it Rack the Shotgun. The shotgun got racked. And some people turn their heads and some people don't. Some people improve and some people don't. And this is why this is the land of opportunity right now. And it doesn't feel like it in a lot of ways. I think a global reset is the necessary component for a second renaissance. I've been telling people for years, I want to start a new renaissance. The old one was way too long ago. It was great, but like 500 years is too long to wait. And you are never going to get a new renaissance the way the world was, because everybody was sleepwalking. Eric Weinstein calls it the big, long societal nap. And everybody's been in a nap. And well, it's wake up time. So who's going to wake up?
Yeah, Sarah writes, disconnect to reconnect.
Yes.
And
yes.
I love it. I'm just taking massive notes, not like Jeremy Wise, but Renaissance time. What a powerful kind of moment to think about life. Like, at first I felt like I'm stuck, and then someone flipped the script for me and told me I'm safe. And that just helped me to breathe a little bit.
Oh, that's actually really powerful.
I'm safe at home.
Yeah.
And this is the best time right now for me to get back some of the time that I just was throwing into a bunch of stuff. I have literally changed my routine. I'm doing 75 hard. I'm in day 20. So it means that, I'm committed to this exercise, eating right, doing a lot of different things. And I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning. And that has transformed my thinking, because now I got to spend it walking with God. I get to turn on just some good music and just spend an hour just worshiping and watching the sunrise, where, you know what? I used to be the guy, oh, it's time to go, get my coffee, run off to work, get home by 5 or 6, do it all over again. Now I'm kind of like, days are long, but they're enjoyable. There's so much to do. What was the book you had?
I want to tag on what you said about being safe. Okay, so I've got a friend named Ezra Firestone. She's an oncologist in New York City, and she's brilliant. She wrote a book about cancer called The First Cell. She mentioned this book, and I bought it. This is called A Journal of the Plague Year by Daniel Defoe. That's the guy who wrote Robinson Crusoe. This is a personal autobiography of the London Plague of 1665. Folks, we are living in the Waldorf quarantine Astoria. Okay, so, let me tell you what it was like. London wasn't as big then as it is now. 100,000 people died in 3 months. You know what the number one word, phrase in this whole book is? Death cart. Okay? In the London plague of 1665, people would break out with boils and black marks on their skin, and within a few days they would be dead, and before they died they would go sometimes slightly insane and start running around crazy, spreading infection all over the place, or running around naked, or like literally just doing totally crazy things. And so if anybody in your house, the only way to contain this was if anybody in your house got the plague, they sent a guard to watch your house to make sure that nobody left your house until whoever had the plague had died. Like, so you're in quarantine for like 40 days from the last time anybody saw any infection. Okay, there were churchyards where they were literally they're not even doing it nicely. They're just throwing dead bodies into a pit to the tune of 10 or 20 every single day. All right. And everybody who had any money, they like fled to the countryside. There's people like living in tents and lean-tos and shacks in the middle of a field. There's guards stationed at every town to make sure no visitors come in. Any ship that comes in from anywhere has to be quarantined for like 30 days before anybody leaves the ship. There's women who can't find a midwife giving birth to babies. Mother and child both die like in delivery. It was pure misery. Okay, if you think things are bad, you just read this book. You know what's funny about this book? The back page at the very end, it says, "Made in the USA, Moni, Illinois, 12 April 2020. You know what that means? That means I bought this on Amazon. It was printed on demand and shipped to my house. Okay, I had Chinese food delivered to my house yesterday. Okay, for dinner. All right, like in 1665 in London, they locked you in their house and they delivered enough bread and meat so you didn't starve to death. And people would fling out the windows and like moan and cry about how horrible their life was. Okay, so like we got it so easy. And not only that, like we're all on Zoom. If this was 15 years ago, we'd all be texting each other at 5 cents a message. We can now video chat with anybody in the world for free who's in quarantine, and we can get a hold of them all because we know where they are.
There's never been a better time to be connected than right now. Imagine if
Perry
20
Marshall
years ago you would be on a dial-up modem and it'd be making an eerie sound to get you connected, and you would like, stay connected for a second.
Hey, except Dan Kennedy, you still got to fax him.
That's why Perry
All right,
Marshall
Ezra, you are up. So we're going to wrap through Ezra and then to Ed, and then we're going to come back with our closing kind of conversation, which is a lot of fun.
I endorse Perry Marshall for mayor, for governor. I got nothing. That was what he said, man. You know, it's like things are so good, and it's, you know, we got soft. We as a society just, you know, take for granted how freaking rich. I mean, I understand classism is real. I started extremely poor. I grew up, you know, I understand that you know, there are levels to our what we have, but at the same time, you know, for the most part, we have food and shelter, and that is like above any other time period in history. You know what I mean? So I endorse what Perry Marshall said 100%. And also, you know, for me, it's been interesting. I moved out of the city, you know, 4 years ago. And so I am not confronted with what Perry's confronted with, which is this dense population of people, all my neighbors being sick, just like I'm out here in the country where it's quite nice out here, you know. Hey, everything's shut down, I can still go, call the local food place, the local food co-op, and they'll leave a box outside for me. I mostly stay. I'm a charismatic hermit, so I come out and I will be, friendly and stuff. But then I mostly like to be in my cave making stuff. Like I'm not super extroverted as it relates to, like, we wouldn't have a social life if it wasn't for my wife. Oh, that's a cute dog. So it's been intense in a bunch of ways on the business side, but on the personal side, I have been sheltered from the sort of bulk of the intensity. Aside from, I have friends who live in the city. I'm getting reports. I have friends who work in the medical community. I have friends who have died of this. I have friends who are sick. So I'm experiencing it on that level. Family who has it, the whole thing. But just for like me personally, yeah, there's a bunch of inconveniences in my life. This house I was building has stopped. Like there's a bunch of stuff that has changed, but I can't really complain. You know what I mean? My life has been really good and continues to be really good.
No, I appreciate the insight, and that's the one thing that I think I've probably been able to center myself more on, is thinking about the others. When Perry was talking, it reminded me of that movie I watched in, I think, high school, when the Coke bottle fell out in the middle of Africa, and then people are like, "What the heck?"
The guys must be crazy.
Yeah,
yeah. And I've been doing what I can to support people who are less fortunate. I've been doing in monetarily and otherwise.
No, and that's so important. I think we're in a fortunate position running our businesses, having the ability to be so networked. It's one of the greatest things that I look forward to every year are all these live events. But you know what? I'm falling a little bit on what Ed was tracking, which is Ed has a really simple philosophy. He never wants to be away from, like, I think, what's your time?
Well, for a long time, I had a 24 to 48 hour rule for traveling. Now the kids are older, so like I got my oldest was across. Like I've loosened those restrictions a little bit when they make sense, but I don't travel much, right? So I'll go for I'll do the 3.5 days, but I would never go to seminars, and my reputation became Ed's in and out, like, what I found was you can condense what you needed to get out of it in the time you allotted. But also, man, I'll just tell you, like, I mean, personally for me, I've first of all, I want to talk about two things before, because I don't want it to sound like, oh, everything's just rosy and I'm lucky but like my center is like, if you want to get me to buy something, center it around either some kind of crazy fitness challenge that scares me. That's one. Or two, like my core team here, which is our family, right? Which is probably true for a lot of people. I wanted to talk a little bit. I'm going to change the topic a little bit just to like because you guys have both given like really good answers on how grateful. Like I'm actually wearing my grateful T-shirt. But really, like the other thing that, like, Perry brought this up a little bit. There's from an entrepreneurship perspective of looking at opportunity and value creation. Peter Thiel's book 0 to 1. I was rereading that, and he talks about like what's the unobvious truth that everyone's ignoring, and that there still are real secrets in the world. Not necessarily like, oh wow, like it might be obvious when you point it out, but like everyone else might be glossing over it. Like right now, everyone knows it's hot if you're going to teach people how to get another side income hustle. Like those are biz op stuff. Totally get it. That's obvious. But what are the unobvious truths? And like maybe spend part of your Renaissance time. I don't want to conflate your Renaissance time, Perry, so forgive me if I get a little wrong. But like add 10 minutes onto it of just like random, like what is in my perceptual awareness that I'm missing, or what is everyone missing right now? Where's the puck moving slightly? That's not a big pivot, as he said, minimum viable pivots, because that is where, like, don't become a me tooer. Become like if you really want to build something that's sustainable over time. All the guys who run events that were creating real value, they're going to be fine once we reopen, because people will always follow them. But like, if you're creating courses that created real value, like Ezra stuff, Perry stuff, I've bought a ton of both of it. They create real value. A nice young kid called me yesterday,
And it's kind of the yin and yang on what Perry said about like, you got to solve the problems today. But he was asking me drop shipping questions. And I said, you know, I'm older now, so I really care more about the longevity of a level 10 avatar or customer. Like, what's their life cycle? And if I'm going to spend time, effort, energy, months, years building my next big thing, it's got to be around solving or problems of a who. So why does that always come back to it? Because conversion rate, target audience, AOV, LTV is all solved by going deeper on your who. Like, who's our best customer? Who's the best person that has the biggest irrational pain that you can solve, and quadruple down on that. In 2008, I left dentistry because I didn't want to go deeper into their office and become a consulting business. I just didn't want to do that. Like, so I made a choice to pivot, go into the supplement world eventually. But a lot of the guys who stayed in dentistry and saw that the landscape was changing and they went deeper into helping the doctors, I mean, they're still there. Like, they've probably sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of services since then. So, so what am I saying now? Solve today's problems, go deeper in the who you want to help. If you don't have a who and you don't know what you want, find somebody who's doing really, really well and just ask them, how can I serve you? And you know, maybe even just be like, I want to be straight commission-based and revenue-based. There's probably a dozen people on this call that would take anybody up on that offer, because how can you say no to that offer, you know?
No, I love it. All right. The good thing about you three, we could go all day because I know that we've got so much.
I thought it said marathon. It said networking remote marathon 2020. I thought that meant 20.
Cinco de Mayo. Come on.
Yeah.
We got,
It's the whole rest of the year.
I know, right?
We have no place to go. All right. So you just need a piece of paper, unless you're really good at remembering things. These are the kind of things that were kind of the top of mind that kept popping up today. And so what this is called like the 3-minute wrap up. So Perry, you get to share your business, something that you're doing. Maybe if you have a call to action, that's awesome. I do want to, Ezra, I want to talk about your Blue Ribbon Mastermind. I want you to share a little bit about that. Like, Ed, talk about Wake Up Foods. Perry, talk about your consulting and being an author and writing amazing stuff, because this is a chance for somebody watching today to take action. I call this the action segment, where you get to close. And imagine you were the close at any event that you would go to this year, and this was your like 3-minute wrap up. So uncertainty was something that came up many, many times. Breathe, just taking a deep breath, moving your body. Like, I think such an important reminder today to just not sit still. Also, I loved be happy. I thought that was such a powerful thing of just finding the joy. It's not going to be there. It's going to be here. So what do you need to do to find some happiness? And Renaissance time, I thought that was brilliant. I think just getting people back. And then I loved Ed's last thing about solving a problem. So the way it is pick 3. And if you feel like you want to spin and add your own, do it. But about 3-minute imaginary timer is going to go, and we'll kick it off with Perry, and then we'll pass it to Ezra and go to Ed.
So I'm well known for a book called 80-20 Sales and Marketing. I think 80-20, if you really understand it, most people don't. If you really understand it, it's the single most powerful conceptual tool in business. I wrote a blog post called an 80-20 plan for easing out of quarantine. You can take this whole thing and you can break it down. There is a group of people that is the 1% of the people has 50% of the problem, and it's identifiable. And that tells you, who do you test? Who do you protect? Who do you build a fortress around? And it tells you who the 80% is that don't have to worry as much about this. If you go to perrymarshall.com/8020, perrymarshall.com/COVID8020, you can read that blog post. And I'm completely serious. Like, if public health officials adopted this approach, a whole bunch of people could start going to work and easing out of this very rapidly. And I would just encourage, so go read that blog post and then click over, because on my website, there's an 80-20 tab. Click over. You can buy this book for $7. We'll ship it to you, including shipping. And it'll cost you 17 on Amazon, but you get it for $10 less on our website, plus some extra videos and things that regular book buyers don't get. And it'll totally change your life. Really, 80-20, if you really understand it, is the single most powerful conceptual tool in business.
Yeah, I could tell everybody Perry's 80-20 stuff's the best out there, hands down. And Richard Koch, actually, didn't he write the original book on that? And so I bought that. But then I think what Perry does a brilliant job on is takes it to the next level of specifically applying it to a lot of like the modern day businesses, customers, etc. So, well, yeah, can't say enough good things about that.
No, Perry, I just want to say thank you for being a guest today. I mean, I've had you personally on, all three of you have been on my podcast at some time, which is awesome. But the wealth of information, if anybody watching isn't following them, like I tell you, find whatever social media channels they are and hit subscribe, follow, and like pay attention to what they're saying. I didn't just ask a few guys to come on. I selectively chose these three today to come spend Cinco de Mayo with me and, just talk about how we're doing, right? And I loved what you said. And I loved what everybody was talking about today. Like, you know what? Maybe you are doing well. Maybe you've got lucky, or maybe it was planned luck over time, but the hard work still needs to happen today. And the one piece, Perry, I'd love, and then I'm going to pass it to Ezra. What's the furthest connection you have made while in quarantine, like around the world? What's the furthest connection you have made? Somebody where in the world?
You mean geographically or like?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, geez, like I'm so used to talking to somebody, who's in Thailand, or boy, I don't even know. But I guess on a more, I don't know, emotional level, I've been working to organize a cancer evolution conference with a bunch of scientists, and people that I would never have any easy way to get to are suddenly kind of showing up on our doorstep here, and so one of the things that Richard Koch teaches is that the real connections that you're like, let's say you're looking for a job, or you're looking for a client, or looking for an investor, or anything interesting, is you don't ask your close friends. You go to the edge of your circle, the people you don't know very well, and you ask them, who do you know and this gets you to somebody completely outside your circle that you would never otherwise meet. And that is where, so I think, to me, that is like kind of the real answer, meaningful answer to your question, Tony.
That's really good, Perry. Where did he talk about that?
It's a book called Super Connect.
Yeah.
And like you should make a habit of going to people you barely know and asking, who should I have lunch with?
That is so good on so many levels, and I know I can't talk about it because Tony's gonna tell me we gotta stop.
No, we got Ezra.
I know, it's so good.
Perry Marshall wins for best dressed guest.
My 10-year-old daughter bought me this.
Hey, I have a blog called smartmarketer.com, and we just hired a new CEO named Molly Pittman, who some of you might know. She's really
amazing.
Wonderful educator as it relates to advertising and sales funnels. And we've got a course out that takes you soup to nuts from how to sort of launch, create, and then optimize an advertising campaign for any type of business. You kind of come in at zero, and by the end of it, you can run ads for a company, or you come in at intermediate, and at the end of it, you're an expert. You can find that at smartmarketer.com. It's called Train My Traffic Person. She just released the digital version. And then I have a mastermind called Blue Ribbon, which is for mostly mid 7, 8, and 9-figure e-commerce brands. And you can find that at smartmarketer.com/mastermind. And also, if you just want to follow me and see what's going on, Instagram is where it's all happening. Instagram seems to be, it's interesting. I do these lives and I mention, hey, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram. And a few years ago, it would be like, I'd get a whole bunch of Facebook likes. And then all of a sudden it was a bunch of Twitter followers. And now I notice anytime I'm on a broadcast, whether I mention it or not, I get Instagram followers from it. So it's kind of like where the activity seems to be in the industry at the moment. So it's Instagram/Ezra Firestone. And you get to get a good, I put my business stuff on there, but I also do a bunch of personal stuff on there too.
Thank you so much, Ezra. I appreciate it. And I've been honored to be a guest before, and check out what you do. It's amazing. Super talented. I mean, all three of you have run something personally that I've either watched or attended myself. And I think it's just fantastic. One last question for you, Ezra. It's the typical, you get this question a lot. Hey, if I had to start all over and I had $5,000, where would I invest my money? And I'm like, that's not the question I'm asking. What's the biggest opportunity you could share today with somebody on, for them or for you maybe, that you have found to be the thing that has helped you the most during this time? What is the biggest opportunity that has truly helped you these last 8 weeks? And we won't take Perry's version about the future, but we'll just take the next 8 hours of your day. What is the biggest thing that you can do?
I think there's power in groups. And when people do ask me that question of what would you do if you had $5,000, I always say I'd throw a party. And I would invite everybody, like the old book Stone Soup. You show up to the village with a pot of water and some rocks, and you get everybody to come to the party, and someone brings potatoes and someone brings carrots and someone brings beef. By the end of it, you got a stew. You showed up with a pot of rocks and some water, but you showed up with bringing a good time. And I like the analogy of I try to be the bartender at the party because everybody wants what they have. And the bartender oftentimes is the catalyst for having created the experience in the first place. So I like to be the catalyst for creating community. And that's what you're doing here, right? You're bringing together a bunch of people, and then we're all sharing ideas. And then all of a sudden out of it, I have something, Ed has something, Perry has something, you have something that you didn't have before. You came together. So, I grew up on a commune, so perhaps that's why I'm so focused on groups and community and thinking that's where it's at in life. But I think that, reach out and connect. And I'm, like I mentioned earlier, that's not my first, I've been doing more of that. And that has felt good and has been profitable in a number of ways. And I think if you ante up more by reaching out more, you get out more because you get out what you put in. So I've been investing more in coming together. Like my Blue Ribbon Mastermind has never been more active, ever. Everybody's coming together, sharing stuff. Here's how you get a discount on this. This is what I'm doing here. So it's like the communities that I'm a part of are really active, and I've been investing more in participating.
Thank you very, very much for being here today. And, I love it. We're going to jump right into Ed. And, I'm going to add one thing to this. 12 years ago, I was stuck behind a microphone and my computer and kind of not going to events, not doing the thing that I knew that I loved the most, which is connection. And Ezra talked about that today. And I think that's in all of us. We crave connection. And if we ever want to be, finding our path today, is don't sit isolating by yourself at home. Anybody watching, if you feel like you're stuck, you have the ability to, make a phone call. If you're watching this, how blessed you are to have internet connection. If you have a cell phone, how blessed are you? Take the little things for granted, but be super, super grateful. One of the first gentlemen that I got a chance to meet when I kind of got out from behind my desk and started attending live events was Ed O'Keefe. And really just having a chance to watch you, Ed, and, one, having 7 kids. I don't know how you figured it out. I don't know how you do it. You run a business. You're always doing health challenges. But one of the things that I've learned is to really build a solid foundation, you really need good people in your life. And today's 3 panels of guests have just been phenomenal. You all offered and brought something. You've all shared immense value with me. So I wanted to pass the baton to you, Ed. You can take us home, and then I'll wrap up.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I mean, this has been awesome. I got to do more of this. I got to be on all your podcasts now moving forward, Tony. I'm kidding. I mean, so my main focus, my quadruple down 10X focus is wakeupfoods.com. For any of the people watching, they could use the code TonyG15 and get 15% off. A special. We're already running a buy 2 get 1 free. They get 15% even more off that. Yeah. So I mean, that's, if you want to connect with me, I got, obviously I'm on Instagram or whatever, and Facebook. But I've got really blinders on right now, and this is what I'm focusing on. And I would say one last thing, just kind of parting shot, is kind of what Ezra said a little bit on it, and I think you guys have all mentioned it a little bit. It goes even to a Wayne Dyer quote back in the day of like, you can't feel depressed if you're focused on serving other people, or you can't feel sorry for yourself when you're helping others, or when you're pushing out to help others. There's another thing in that, like if you ever done really extreme challenges or anything hard, when things get hard, keeping it to yourself and going internal is actually the way to start failing. And there's a difference on speaking the pain versus there's I can go on this, but the point being is focus on supporting your teammate and the people around you, and life gets better faster. I had a buddy might call me a few weeks ago, and his business literally just got completely shut down. 8-figure business, by law couldn't operate. And my job at that point was really to listen. And he was using words that like were very grief oriented. Like he was going through the whole denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, like the DABDA steps. And I noticed he was in the anger thing. And by the time we were off the phone, there was really no good advice for the business, because the business, it is what it was. There was nothing he could do. But what he could do that day was reach out to 5 people and check in on them, just friends. And so this has been great for me to just kind of get reignited with, making a daily or 3 times a week doing something with other people, because getting the energy from Perry, as yourself, Tony. Tony, I love that you're doing this, man. Like, I really love it. I was listening to yours with Tanner and Matt and Nick. Was it Nick on it? Sorry if I screwed that up. But I just thought it was awesome. It's good for all of us. So thank you for doing this and putting this all together.
Hey, I just know that I couldn't normally get you 3 together. Like,
right.
We would be somewhere doing something, and I'm like, how blessed and fortunate are we to be able to pull this off? And I just want to say it's been one of those mornings where I feel like Perry was talking about the Renaissance time, and I internally looked at like, I got to do that today. And Ezra, you're talking about, looking at the distribution channel and scaling back, but now is a great time to, if you can, build awareness of your brand and you, and like, I loved it. And I love the fact that, before the show, Ed's talking about, channels for growing his business, and you guys all came in here today and you just loved on everybody. And I just want to say thank you. I know that the comments alone, if you guys get a chance after the show, just on Facebook, just go answer some of those. People love getting the feedback, because that's why networking remote was something essential for me to launch, was because I'm a connector and I love the element of being connected. And the very first week or so, being in recovery and alcoholism, it was a very much an inward deep dive. It was a lot of frustration and a lot of uncertainty. So the only thing I knew how to do was get into action. And that's what Ed was just talking about too. Like, you can internalize so much, but if you can find, it's that fight or flight. And I just remember to stay. When this overwhelming sensation comes on, just stay in this moment. Don't let it go, because this is something you need to remember, because it's going to be the thing that you measure where you're heading. Is hey, remember how you got through the toughest times that everybody went through? What were the things that you were doing? And Perry was talking about getting a routine. Ezra's talking about being healthy. Ed's talking about being healthy. Like, your mind is the most powerful thing we can use. And a lot of times during panic, we freeze and we don't use what we know. We kind of look to everybody else for the answer. And I kind of believe I've got this beacon inside of me that tells me what to do. And that is to get into quiet stillness so I can just ask and then I can hear. So I just want to say thank you. And you guys have been phenomenal. We're going to wrap up the show, pre-sell the next show coming up. We got Rome Zaw, we have Tommy Joyner, and we have Joshua Valencia coming up. So on Thursday, be sure to tune in for that. On behalf of Perry Marshall, Ezra Firestone, and Ed O'Keefe, my name is Tony Grebmeier. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, choose to make today the absolute best day of your life.
Thanks for listening to the Networking Remote. Remember, you are not alone. Stay connected.